You've been told your whole life that you cry too easily, that your emotions sit too close to the surface, that you need to toughen up, stop taking things so personally, stop making everything a big deal. People say these things casually, as if they're harmless, but every time you heard them, something inside you tightened. Because you didn't choose this sensitivity. You didn't ask for tears that rise without warning. You didn't want a heart that reacts before your mind has a chance to get involved. And yet, here you are, feeling deeply, crying quickly, absorbing everything. Most people assume this makes you weak. But what if your tears aren't the flaw? What if they're the evidence? Evidence that your brain is wired to feel more, notice more, process more than the average person ever will. Tonight, we're decoding what your tears actually mean. And by the end of this, you may understand that crying easily isn't a lack of strength. It's a different form of strength altogether. The emotional world you've been living in without realizing it. You might not remember when it began. Maybe you were a child who cried when other kids got hurt, or the teenager who teared up during arguments, movies, or even moments of joy. Maybe you learned to hide your face, wipe your eyes fast, or turn away so no one would see your reaction. Deep down, you wondered why emotions hit you harder than they hit everyone else, why you couldn't hold it together, why moments that barely touched others crashed through your whole body. If you've spent years apologizing for your tears, you're not alone. Many people who cry easily grow up believing something is fundamentally wrong with them. But this belief is built on a misunderstanding of your biology, not a reflection of your character. Because people who cry easily aren't weak. They're wired differently. They feel emotional shifts the way others feel temperature changes. They sense tension in voices the way others notice weather patterns. They break open not because they're fragile, but because their internal world is louder, faster, more deeply resonant. And if you've ever cried without knowing exactly why, it's because your system reacts before your logic has time to translate the signal. Your tears aren't random, they're messages. The brain science behind crying easily. To understand why tears come quickly, you have to understand your inner architecture. Not just psychology, but physiology. Your brain is equipped with emotional circuits that act like amplifiers. When most people experience sadness or empathy, their emotional response is mild, manageable, contained. But your circuits fire faster and harder. First, there's your mirror neuron system, the part that simulates the emotions of others. When someone near you feels pain, disappointment, or joy, your brain doesn't just observe it, it echoes it. You don't imagine someone's sadness. You feel it in your chest, in your stomach, in your eyes. Then there's depth of processing. You don't skim emotional experiences, you absorb them. While others react in the moment and move on, your brain begins connecting memories, interpreting meaning, predicting consequences. A simple sentence, a shift in tone, a moment of silence. Your mind runs a full emotional simulation. The tears come not from weakness, but from intensity. Your feelings move quickly because your processing moves deeply. This is why you might cry during conflict even when you're not sad, or cry when you're overwhelmed even if nothing bad happened. Your emotional bandwidth fills faster. Your release valve activates sooner. To others, this looks irrational, but internally it's perfectly logical. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Release pressure before it becomes unbearable. And the real question isn't, why do you cry easily? The real question is, why are so many people numb? The 7 psychological patterns that explain your tears. Habit number 1. You notice emotional shifts immediately. When a room changes energy, your body reacts before your mind understands why. You might tear up simply because you felt the disappointment behind someone's smile or the tension behind someone's joke. Your tears are evidence of your emotional radar, not your fragility. Habit number 2, you carry other people's pain without meaning to. You might cry when someone tells you their story, not because you're overwhelmed, but because your empathy is active and real. You're not watching their pain, you're touching it. This level of absorption is rare and powerful, but it also requires boundaries you were never taught to create. Habit number 3, you feel your own emotions intensely. Most people experience sadness as a drizzle. You experience it as a storm. Most people feel joy as a spark. You feel it as a flood. This intensity is why crying is often your body's natural response. It's the overflow mechanism of a full emotional spectrum. Habit number 4, you replay emotional moments long after they end. You think about what was said, how it was said, what people felt, what you felt. Your brain doesn't move on. It processes deeply. Tears come during the replay because your emotional system is still metabolizing the experience. Habit number 5, you cry when you're angry. Anger feels just as overwhelming as sadness in your system. It's not a lack of control. It's your body's way of preventing emotional combustion. You're releasing intensity before it hardens into bitterness. Habit number 6, your past wounds echo through present moments. If you grew up without emotional safety, your tears may carry old echoes. A small disappointment today awakens an old hurt. A criticism now reminds your body of years-old pressure. Your tears connect past and present like invisible threads. Habit number 7, you cry when you feel seen. This is the one most people misunderstand. When someone finally understands you, comforts you, or supports you without judgment, the tears come because your system is experiencing something rare, emotional safety. It's not sadness, it's relief. These habits don't reveal emotional instability. They reveal emotional depth. The misunderstandings that shape your entire life. People who cry easily are often misunderstood in ways that change their entire identity. And these misunderstandings turn into stories you start believing. There's the child who cries when teachers raise their voice, only to be told to stop being dramatic. No one sees that the child isn't reacting to the volume. They're reacting to the emotional threat encoded in tone. Years later, that same adult still shuts down during conflict because the body remembers what the mind tried to ignore. Then there's the adult who cries during arguments with their partner. Not out of manipulation, but because the argument triggers old fear. They grew up in a home where conflict meant danger, not dialogue. Their tears aren't a tactic, they're a survival reflex. Yet partners misinterpret them as emotional weakness or avoidance. And then there's the person who cries when someone thanks them deeply or shows genuine kindness. People laugh it off, call it adorable, emotional, over the top, but they never realize the truth. This person went decades without feeling seen. Their tears aren't about the compliment. They're about the hunger finally being fed. When the world misunderstands your tears, you begin to misunderstand yourself. You start believing you're fragile. You punish yourself for reacting. You apologize for emotions that were never wrong to feel. But crying easily doesn't mean you lack strength. It means you lack environments that honor your emotional calibration. The world isn't built for sensitive nervous systems. It runs on speed, distraction, armor, and suppression. So of course you feel out of place. But being out of place is not the same as being out of value. Your tears don't expose your weakness. They expose the world's emotional poverty. Turning sensitivity into strategy instead of shame. Sensitivity becomes suffering only when you try to live like someone who isn't sensitive. Your tears become shameful only when you treat them like mistakes instead of signals. Your crying has purpose. It tells you when you're overwhelmed. It tells you when someone has crossed a line. It tells you when you're carrying too much. It tells you when something meaningful is happening. And the solution isn't to toughen up. It's to tune in. If you cry from overwhelm, your solution is capacity building, not self-blame. You need breaks before burnout, quiet before collapse, honesty before overload. If you cry in conflict, your solution is emotional safety, not silence. You need partners who fight softly, who pause, who understand your triggers. If you cry when others hurt, your solution is boundaries. You cannot carry everyone's pain without drowning in it. If you cry when you feel seen, your solution is more environments where vulnerability is normal, not mocked. Your tears are not the enemy. Your environment is. In the right space, your sensitivity becomes intuition. Your empathy becomes insight. Your tears become truth-telling tools. You don't need thicker skin. You need fewer emotional weapons pointed at you. The truth behind your tears. Here's the part people rarely say out loud. If you cry easily, it means your emotional system is fully alive. Not numb, not stunted, not broken, alive. Your tears reveal your humanity in a world that has forgotten how to feel. They reveal your depth in a world that rewards detachment. They reveal your honesty in a world addicted to masks. So the next time your eyes well up, whether from sadness, joy, overwhelm, or relief, don't rush to wipe them away as if they're evidence of failure. They're evidence that nothing inside you has shut down. They're evidence that you haven't hardened into someone you were never meant to be. They're evidence that your heart is still connected to the world. The real question isn't, why do you cry so easily? The real question is, why do so many people feel so little? And if your tears still come easily, maybe that's not something you need to fix. Maybe it's something the world needs to learn from.